Well, we've been in this thing two videos, and it seems like every time we get to something kind of interesting or that takes a lot of time, I just keep kind of going a little further. So let's make sure we have all these questions that I want to cover, and then we'll come back and pick up some stuff. So let me just give you a few of the questions here, and you know me, I'll probably deviate a little bit, but I've got to stop and tell you some of the really cool things. We can't miss all of those. But in order to help you with the notes, I want to make sure we just cover a bunch of these. Okay, so the peristalsis, okay, of the detrusor muscle of the urinary bladder is controlled by what? Okay, now what are we talking about here? A while ago we were talking about holding your urine, okay? Now we're going to talk about the bladder itself, okay? The bladder itself being able to tighten up, okay? So peristalsis, P-E-R-I-S-T-A-L-S-I-S, peristalsis, okay, means almost like to paralyze or open, okay? To open or close of the detrusor muscle of the urinary bladder is controlled by the parasympathetic nervous impulses. The parasympathetic nervous system kind of tells our bladder, what does it do? The peristalsis of the destructor muscle of the urinary bladder is controlled by the parasympathetic nervous system impulses. Okay, let's see what else we've got here. Let's see here. Okay, which structure is last in the sequence of urine flow? Okay, so when we go through the whole urinary system, what's the last thing in the urinary flow? It'd be the urethra, the U-R-E-T-H-R-A, urethra, where we come in and we excrete the liquid waste. The outermost structure of the kidneys, okay, the outermost structure of a kidney is the capsule, okay? So that we have the capsule, we have the fat layer, and then right under that we have the capsule, the outermost layer. What is the main factor that causes urine to enter the kidneys? And it's peristalsis, okay? P-E-R-I-S-T-A-L-S-I-S, peristalsis, okay? P-E-R-I-S-T-A-L-S-I-S. And you've talked about that or learned about that a lot in your questions, okay? What is the main factor that promotes bladder infections in the female? Okay, now this is kind of a big thing because a lot of females, some females have more bladder infections than other people, and actually some females have, and it's different in females and males. It's really interesting. Once again, this just warrants a conversation because you're like, well, I have great bladder control and I don't have bladder control. So a lot of people think that it's the size of the bladder that causes the bladder control, but it's not. It's the length of the urethra. The urethra, okay, U-R-E-T-H-R-A, it's the tube. The longer, the long tube you have coming from your bladder actually determines how good a bladder control you have, okay? That long tube, because the bladder itself releases that into the urethra, and the urethra then has to do with how much pressure you have. So if you have a shorter urethra, then you actually have better bladder control. Males don't have this longer tube that's got in the digestive system. The females have the longer urethra tube, so the longer that tube is, and it's kind of a genetic thing, okay? Some people have great bladder control, some people don't have a lot of bladder control, but it's not the bladder itself, it's the length of the urethra. The tube that runs from the bladder to where we're going to release this, we're going to release the urine. So that's really interesting. So doctors actually can kind of tell you, say somebody says, well, I have terrible bladder control. And say, well, it's because you have a really long urethra. It's really interesting. So kind of genetic. So if you don't have very good, if you have to go pretty often, chances are your kids might be in the same boat. But that's an interesting human anatomy deal. Okay. Once again, the question was, what's the main factor that promotes bladder infections? Now, bladder control is the length of the urethra, but it also is bladder infections. Why is that? The longer the urethra, okay, and the more the urine sets in the urethra, we have better chances for bladder infection. So Once again, the longer urethra, the harder it is to control. They say your bladder's not as strong, it's harder to control, not having to go to the restroom, but it's also bladder infections, okay? So the longer the urethra, the more we have chances of bladder infections. Now, what system functions in the excretion of soluble nitrogenous waste? Okay, and that's the urinary system. Okay, so how do we remove nitrogenous waste in our body? That's the urinary system. What's associated with nitrogenous waste? It's proteins, amino acids. They're all made up of nitrogen. All our cells, the nitrogenous bases in the DNA. When a cell breaks down, we're gonna get rid of the DNA, which is critical. The nitrogenous base. We're gonna make nitrogenous waste in those cells. We're gonna remove that by what system? The urinary system. Now, the pyramids are areas located within the blank of the kidney. So we have something called the pyramids. It's sections of nephrons, okay, and openings are areas located within the medulla, M-E-D-U-L-L-A, the medulla of the kidney. The ureter directly receives urine, okay, all right. Now this is kind of interesting, all right. The ureter directly receives urine from the pelvis of the kidney, okay. Isn't that interesting that it's called the pelvis? Pelvis is a Latin word which has to do with the curvature of the pelvis, but it's also that part of the kidney. So when we say the pelvis, we're not talking about the bone, the pelvis, we're talking about the pelvis part of the kidney. The ureter directly receives urine from the pelvis of the kidney. The structure which receives the filtrate from the glomerulus, Glomerulus, okay, is the Bowman capsule, all right? Bowman capsule, real famous part of the kidney. It's a structure which receives the filtrate from the glomerulus. What's the filtrate? The filtrate is all of the material that we filtered out of the kidney. Okay. Once again, that's the Bowman capsule. Now, let's keep going here. Okay. Now, what are the traits that characterize the structure of a nephron? Okay. Now, a nephron, once again, that's all the little filters within the kidney. Okay. So there are two coiled portions of the renal tube. Okay, which means that so once again, these are talking about traits. Okay, the question says choose the one trait that does not characterize the structure of the nephron. Okay, that does not characterize. So these are the ones that do. It's a coiled portion. So in the nephron we have a coiled part of the renal tube. All right. The glomerular capsule contains podocytes with slit pores. That's true of the nephron. And several nephron tubules merge to form a collecting duct. Okay. So as you study the nephrons, we need to know what it is. Okay. What is it not? It's not blood that will be filtered, flows into glomerular capsules. Okay. What they're trying to get you to see here is that nephron never has blood in it. The nephron is always, the blood has already started to be broken down, and the nephrons, as it filters out the blood, we've already broken down the blood. We're already started getting this out. Here's the thing that the nephron is not, okay? The nephron is not blood that will be filtered, flows into glomerular capsules. All right, now, the concentrations of substances in the plasma. What's the plasma? That's a liquid part of the blood. In the glomerular filtrate and in the urine differ in what way? Okay, plasma and glomerular filtrate are virtually identical. All right, so plasma and glomerular filtrate. Well, plasma is already in the blood. So the glomerular filtrate, what the kidneys are filtering out is already the plasma in the blood that can go directly in the blood, okay? But urine contains proportionally more waste products, okay? So when we have glomerular filtrate, that's what we're pulling out. That's the good stuff. Well, that's the same as plasma. So we're going to take the glomerular filtrate, and that's actually going to go right back into the blood. That is the plasma. We're not... now, I don't say we're not going to put in red blood cells because the kidney can actually control the production of red blood cells, but what we're saying there is that what we're saying there is plasma and glomerular filtrate are identical, but urine contains the waste. All right. Now, which force favors filtration? Okay. Which force favors filtration? In other words, what runs the blood through there? Well, it's glomerular capillary hydrostatic pressure. Okay. What is hydrostatic pressure? It's a pressure. It's a pressure caused by the. Once we get, I was telling you that we have a capsule outside this kidney, so the kidney doesn't expand. Okay, so as the material comes in, it's hydrostatic, meaning the more pressure we have in there, the more it's going to push out what's in there. Okay, so we have this constant blood coming in, constant blood coming out, and that blood coming in is causing hydrostatic pressure. What factor does not affect glomerular filtration rate? The concentration of leukocytes in the blood. Which factor does not affect glomerular filtration rate? The concentration of leukocytes. So if we have a lot of leukocytes, okay, white blood cells, that doesn't affect the kidneys at all. They operate regardless of the amount of leukocytes. Now, here's a tough one, okay? Okay, now once again, let's spell this one out. Actually, I think I'm going to write this one out for your next video. We just have a little bit of a video left, so let me do that. Let me see what else we got. Tubular reabsorption is responsible for retaining nutrients the body requires. Most tubular reabsorption occurs in the proximal convoluted tube. We had that question earlier, so they're going to ask you that a couple of times here. Okay, so most tubular what? Reabsorption. Okay, means the good stuff. All right, is going to be in the proximal convoluted tubules. Let me see, I just have a couple more, but let's come back on the next. Let's do one more video, and I'll make it a short one of about just a few minutes and try to wrap this up.